So without more ado, I am delighted to introduce our first speaker, who is Richard Benjamins from Telefónica, where he's Chief AI and Data Strategist. Richard, welcome.
Yes, good morning or good day, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Let me get control over the screen. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something about our experience and also more the experience in general, in the industry and sector on how data-driven companies are at the moment. So if you look at AI and big data in Telefónica, and I think this is not just specifically for our company, but is generally for many telcos. There are different areas how you can use this kind of technology to improve your business and your opportunities. Let me briefly introduce the four of them. So the first one is the internal use cases. This is everything that has to do with the network optimization, deployment, fiber, 4G, 5G, even to manage the network itself. It's all about marketing, better marketing, more targeted understanding your customers, and it's really about the customer lifecycle management. So really understand what you have to do in order to better understand your customers. So that's the first one, And if you look at today at the main, let's say, benefits of this kind of technology, this is where it is, So because this is optimizing the core business. What we do as a side of it, we don't only use this internally to improve our core business, but also to generate new business. So if you look at, this is a video that doesn't work. So if you look on the top right, actually we turned the data that we have in our company, we turned it into an asset in an anonymized and aggregated way where we generate mobility insights. So what you see on the top right is Barcelona. Is a specific location and all the movements during one day to that specific location, which is a university. This is helping, let's say, public administration to optimize their transport planification. And you can do that across the board. So it's not only for internal use, but it's also for external use. Data as a business. The third part where we use this technology is to innovate in the customer relation. So this is all about digital assistant, virtual assistant, chatbots, etc. We have our own, let's say, platform which is called Aura, and we've put that in multiple channels, in an app, on the internet, in the shops, in connections with Facebook Messenger, with WhatsApp, etc. Where our customers can have 24/7 connection with the business. It's not just frequently asked questions, it really goes into the customer details, retrieves it from the systems in real time, and can have a dialogue. We've also put it in call centers, and what we've seen is that about 20 or 30% of the customer requests can be handled in this way. And within this 20 or 30%, 70% is resolved in the first interaction, which is quite good. So these are all business opportunities, but finally there's also a social opportunity, and we've been working with this anonymized and aggregated telco data that's floating through our network, not only for businesses, so for retail or for logistics or for transport or for financial services, but also for pandemics like COVID, natural disasters, forced migration, climate change, etc. There's a huge value in let's say, mobility network. And what I wanted to share with you is a very small example of what we're currently still doing. So within Europe, there are 17 operators that share anonymized and aggregated mobility data with the European Commission, such that the European Center for Disease Control can have a European perspective on the developments of the pandemic, about understanding how mobility happens, how it relates to cases, where are potential outbreaks, prediction of where it will go, etc. What you see on this picture on the left bottom is Spain, a map of Spain, and the black lines are the provinces, the borders of provinces, and the colors represent areas that are, like, let's say, mobility communities. So those are areas where people move more within the area, significantly more within the area than outside the area. So it's kind of natural communities. And if governments would be able to confine populations in terms of those areas rather than in terms of administrative borders, probably the confinement strategy would be similar, but the impact on economy and on business would be much less, because usually what happens if governments confine on administrative borders, they may cut business areas in 2 or in 3, which really kills the economic activity. So this is a way using this technology to improve, even today, this crisis. Obviously, it's not easy to implement this measure from a political perspective, but still, it is something that is interesting to consider. Now, what I will show you now is 2 examples of what we've been doing in terms of the customer relation optimization marketing of our business, on the next slides.
Quiero ver Vengadores Infinity War en la televisión.
Voy a ello, dame un segundo.
So what you saw here is this Aura assistant that we have. It's on the mobile, but it's also on a specific device, which we call Movistar Home. And there you can talk to your mobile and you can ask for a movie. Here they ask for a movie of Avengers. And then actually it puts the movie on the TV, which are connected. So this is something that is to support our core business, as TV is one of the key assets that we have in our Spanish operation. In the next video, you will see a brief example of what we call a device recommendation. So as a customer, you can ask for a new device to be recommended to you, and that uses a combination of what they call deep learning and reinforcement learning, 2 very popular techniques of artificial intelligence.
Quiero ver Vengadores Infinity War en la televisión.
Here it is. Okay, so as I said, this is very simple interface, but under the hood, as I said, you have 2 complex artificial intelligence technologies. One is for finding out what device I should recommend, taking into account a lot of information about the customer. And the other AI technology that is used is for deciding when to offer something to a customer. So those are 2 factors that are used by complex technology, very precise, but then on the other hand, a very easy user interface. Okay, so this is something that Telefónica has done. And if you look at what this, so what are the success factors of companies to become successful with this kind of technology? Now, according to McKinsey, there are 6 factors. So it's digital maturity. It is, of course, if you're not digital, if you have only paper, then you can't do anything with it. It's usually for larger businesses, so not too much the smaller ones. You should adapt this technology into the core business. You should use multiple technologies, focus on growth, not only on savings, and also have C-level support for this. Now, if you look at this in the Telefónica context, that actually Telefónica is doing very well. So we were ranked #1 in digital maturity for European telcos. As we've seen, now we use it in our core business. We use it not only for saving, but also for growth. And we have very strong support from our president. We had a quote earlier on in this session, and so Jose Maria Alvarez Payete really values this technology and really is an evangelist also for this in other contexts. Yeah? So that's good. Now, how has been this journey of Telefónica? Yeah? So we started actually exactly 10 years ago. In 2011, our then Chief Operating Officer said, data is not just an exhaust of our operation, it is a strategic asset, yeah? And it has to be turned into something. The asset has to be managed and has to be turned into value. Now we're 10 years away now, and we've made a long journey, but we've made a lot of improvements. Yeah. Of course, we also made many mistakes. Yeah, and would have we known in advance all the things that we've learned, then probably we could have done it in 5 years, yeah, instead of in 10 years. But still, yeah. So if you are, if organizations, large organizations start with this, usually they first start to explore. Yeah. So what are the opportunities? Let's take a business problem. Let's take the technology and let's see how it helps and how it solves the problem. Yeah, we did that with social network analysis, which basically using the communications graphs in our communications to see if there was an influence on marketing and churn. Yeah, if we could improve some of those business problems, and we could. Yeah, so that's when we decided, okay, we have to take it to the next level. We have to do a transformation. Yeah, a data transformation, starting the data journey for real. And that means you have to organize your business. You have to not only look at individual organizations, but you have to have a global strategy, yeah? a roadmap for each of the operating business, what they should achieve, focus on the main use cases. Even if they may take some time, it's still worthwhile to invest, and because they will give the most of values. Yeah? You also have to decide what data you want to store and to collect, because there is so much data within an organization, especially a telco, but also in a bank or in a utility company, that it's not you just have the data. Yeah? You have to make explicit decisions and invest in that. You have to break all kinds of silos, because traditionally all the data sits in different departments and it's owned by the different departments. So, and that's hard to do. Yeah. Once you've done that, and this will take a few years, then you can become data-driven, which means that the important decisions of your company you take based on data. So informed by data and algorithms, and of course also combining that with human expertise, experience, and intuition. Yeah. Then you are also ready to grow. Yeah. So for instance, Telefónica acquired the company with, and in one day had suddenly 150 data scientists more than before. It's also about training your employees, not only the technical people, but also the business people. So it's a cultural transformation. And then finally, where we are now, we call it in the artificial intelligence area with cognitive power. You saw this with all these digital assistants. And then it's not only the use cases, but it's also about privacy and trust, yeah, and ethics, because you really scale this out through our business. We use it a lot. So we need to be aware of all the risks involved and manage those risks in a proactive way. Yeah. So that's the journey that we went through. And actually, there's a few things that one of the most important things that we learned is that data is a very important part of it. Yeah. So we did a lot of use cases in the past with a network or with marketing. We did it in one country, then we did it in another country, and then in a third country. And what we observed was that actually each of those projects were the kind of same complexity. Yeah. We thought from the beginning, okay, if we've done it 3 times, then the 4th time will be maybe much quicker, yeah? But it wasn't. Yeah? So what we found out was that actually what took the most of the time in all of those projects was getting the data right. So accessing the data, storing the data, understanding the data, and really that is the problem. Then doing the analytics and applying the algorithm was maybe 10%, and of course putting it into production is also complex. But by far the main problem was the data. So we started to look at it from a different perspective, what we call a platform perspective. Yeah, and we divided the company in 4 platforms, where 3 platforms were existing. Yeah, so the first platform is the physical assets. It's the network, it's fiber, it's the masts, it's the shops, etc. Yeah, generates a huge amount of data. It's in the first platform. Then we have the IT and the systems platform, which is the BSS, OSS. Yeah, billing, all kinds of revenue assurance, all kinds of systems that also generate a huge amount of data. And then we have the product and service on top of that. It's television, it's connectivity, it is cloud, it's financial services, so all the services that you put on top of these platforms. And that also generates a huge amount of data. Now, and what we've done in the past is what we did is each of those systems generates data somewhere in the system. So if you want to look at that data, you have to go to many different places, put it together, harmonize it, and that is where the effort goes. Yeah. So what we decided, we will create a 4th platform, and then each of those 3 platforms will, let's say, put or store the data not only locally but also in this 4th platform. Yeah, and that has been our strategy from 2015 or 2016. Have this harmonized layer where we put everything in the 4th platform, and that means that we can lift and shift use cases from one company to another company very easy. So this is how it works from a conceptual view. At the bottom you have this 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd platform. They all put data into the 4th platform through a unified reference model. So this is it's a semantic model that is common to all the businesses, and they have to expose their data in this format. And from then, big data and artificial intelligence is running on top of that unified reference model. And then it's used internally, it's used for customer interaction, it's used for our external data business, and also to connect with partners and all. Yeah. So this has been a huge project. As you imagine it is from initial idea and conception to implementation. We are still working on it, so it's a long project, but we've seen that this is necessary in order to scale the use of this technology across every single area of the business. Definitely not easy. Now, so these are how do you come to those to this situation? Yeah. So what I've learned is that in the process, so I was there at 2011. I'm still here. I went to another company in the meantime as a chief data officer, and I saw many things that are important along this journey. Yeah. So I decided to write it up in a book. It's called The Data-Driven Company: 21 Lessons to Create Value from Data and Artificial Intelligence. And basically, it looks at the key decisions that large organizations, be they businesses or public or governments or public administrations, the key decisions that such organizations will take on their data journey. Now, they will take it. It doesn't mean they will take the decision explicitly. Yeah? Oftentimes, it's just taken as they go because there is no experience. It just seems natural to do it like that. But in fact, any of those decisions have different options and have their pros and cons, the disadvantages and advantages. So what I try to write down in this book is those decisions that to take. What are the options? What are the advantages and the disadvantages depending on where you are in the journey? Yeah, and then this is enriched with about 20 statements of 20 experts of the data businesses across the world. Yeah. Now, I understood that there are 5 dimensions that you can look at those decisions in this data journey. On the one hand, it's the organizational area. How do you organize all this in a company in terms of departments, reporting lines? Then it's about business decisions. So how do you measure the impact of your initiatives? How do you select use cases? How do you fund this whole initiative? Because of course it's very expensive. It's about technology, cloud, where do you run this analytics, how do you collect data? And of course, it's also about people. Yeah, not everybody will be happy about this. So how do you win over skeptics? How do you create momentum with this? And of course, lately it's also about responsibility. Yeah, AI and ethics, privacy, using data not only for business but also for good. Yeah, what's your responsible factor of that? So what this book explains is each of those decisions that you see here, and what are the advantages and the options and the disadvantages. It's not explaining what big data and AI is. It's really about what are the important decisions that a company has to take, and it's better to take them explicitly rather than just go with the flow. I think I will stop here, and if there is any question, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Richard. We have some questions that have appeared in the chat. So could people please use Q&A, because then I don't have to monitor or try and monitor two things. So the first thing, Richard, is when you showed the very simple interface for the services, on the smartphone, someone in our audience said that example was from Argentina. And do you do the same thing in Spain?
So the device recommendation indeed is for Argentina, and yes. So what we are doing is bringing it to all the other companies as well. I think it's currently already there, or it's in the process of being deployed. But definitely that's the whole idea. Yeah? So you do it in one, and then you bring it to others in a fast way. Yeah, not like taking again 11 months, but do the first one that might take some time, but the second one can be much quicker.
Okay, and somebody else has asked, is Aura in-house or some third-party branded solution, and which? And the person also says they understand if you're not at liberty to answer.
Yeah, so of course, I think any company that has teams in place sometimes want to accelerate, even quicker, and then goes to a third party to help them. That can be for analytics, let's say, power and effort, but sometimes it's also products. Yeah? So for instance, in the digital assistants, we work together with Microsoft, and we use cognitive services, we use their NLP services, and we build on that in this particular case.
Okay, and another question about Aura, was the original purpose to get control of the OTT platforms, so that instead of, I guess, other voice activated platforms, I can't think who they could mean, that you decided to keep that control between yourself and the consumer?
So I understand this is a question about why we use our own assistant like Aura, and we wouldn't go with Alexa or with Siri or with one of those. And yes, this has been a strategic decision. I mean, as a integrated telecommunications company where we have mobile and fixed, we are in millions of homes of people, and so we already are there. So we think it's relatively easy for us to build out that value proposition to include also voice assistants, and it's rather key. Yeah, so one of our key strategies is integration of those technologies and offering, and also having a triple or a quadruple play, or even a quintuple play. Yeah? Putting more things together in the homes of our customers, and therefore this is an essential and strategic part, and not just an add-on that we can go with an over-the-top player.
Richard, is Aura interoperable with some of the other voice-activated assistants, or is it a standard?
With some it is. So, for instance, you can ask in some countries. You can ask to to Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. You can ask, I want to speak with Aura, and then it switches to Aura, and then you start your dialogue with Aura.
Okay. Another question is, what is the payback period to start realizing revenue from the investment in this transformation?
Now, that's a good question, yeah?
It's the question, maybe.
Well, there are actually several answers. Yeah? So if you look at the value of this whole proposition, yeah, there are a few things that, if you just want to recover your investment as soon as possible, and this has happened in the past. Yeah? So those telcos had all kinds of very expensive database systems, data warehouses. Yeah, so they had Oracle, they had Teradata or IBM. And data was growing and growing. So the costs of maintaining those platforms increased significantly. Yeah, it was millions and millions. So one of the first things that we did is evaluate, hey, why don't we keep the data that we need often in those databases, but a lot of the data that we don't use every day, and we use maybe for analytics, maybe we put it in a big data platform. Yeah, so open source, maybe with Hortonworks or Hadoop, etc. And then you go from millions, from many millions, maybe just to a few millions. And then you haven't done any use case, yeah, but you can already recover some part of your investment, yeah. Then if you do this many times, indeed, it is difficult to find out what exactly of the revenues or the savings is due to this technology and what is due to other processes in the company. Yeah? So that's a tough question, and actually I give some advice in the book on how to deal with that. But so if you look at the right use cases, if you look at optimizing savings, then I think you could be in 2 or 3 years, you could be at least covering cost. Yeah? But nobody does this to recover cost. This is really about transformation, is creating a huge amount of additional value. And not only because you want the value, because everybody else will do that. Yeah. So if you don't, you will going to be lagging behind.
Okay, so there's a big cost to not doing this stuff, like maybe not staying in business, for instance. Okay. Yeah. We have someone else who has asked, what about cybersecurity? I presume pertaining to data.
Well, that's a headache. Definitely. I don't know, but I mean, the attacks on companies, large companies, there's thousands a day. Yeah. So this is something that is very serious, and you have to take it very seriously, and we do. Yeah. We have even a cybersecurity business where we offer cybersecurity to many critical infrastructures in different countries. So we also apply that to ourselves, but it definitely is one of the most important things.
Okay, and someone else asked, there's a lot of fascination around Aura, Richard. Have you done any customer experience testing of Aura versus, say, Alexa or Siri? I mean, have you done comparisons and tests?
Well, we've done some. Aura also, we also looked at the personality of Aura, but I mean, Aura is not a competitor of Alexa or of Siri. Yeah, so it's different objectives. Yeah? I think Siri and Alexa can say thousands of things. Yeah, Aura is use case based. Yeah, so we treat it there's a use case about inform customers about how much of that data bundle they still have available. So it's a very specific use case where we work on, and if we're happy with the results, we put it into production. Yeah, and then you have one thing more. It's not opening up a huge amount of potential interactions, yeah, which is basically what you can do with Alexa. You can ask him about many different things, and even if Alexa doesn't know it, he just sends you to the internet and comes back with an answer that might be correct or might be not. Yeah? And I have Alexa, and sometimes I even surprised that he gets it or she gets it right. Yeah? Aura has a different perspective. It's much more on the business. It's for specific things, and it should work on specific things, but it has no ambition to speak about anything in the world.
Okay, we have a question here that I'm just trying to digest. So somebody asks, if you reach cognitive decision implementation level, it should be known at any moment if the continuous investment in these platforms is being paid back or not, right?
Well, I mean, the cognitive interaction with customers is not a revenue generator in itself. Yeah. Actually, many of the questions we got. So we invest a lot in Aura, but what business does it give? Yeah. But there are several things it does. First, it increases customer loyalty. Yeah. So if it works fine, customers can have a better interaction with the company 24/7. Yeah. It's not often that customer services of telcos are criticized, yeah, for being slow, for being complex, for having to wait in line, etc. So this is something that changes it. Yeah? And on the other hand, you also can upskill let's say the workforce that is talking to people. Yeah? So you can channel the boring, repetitive, and uninteresting questions to the machine, and you can keep the more interesting issues and questions for the agents. Yeah, and there is also an optimization process that creates value for the company and the customers.
Richard, I've got one last question, although we're sort of out of time, but I remember hearing you speak in 2019, which seems like a different life. And I was interested to hear you say that because you've implemented one thing in one place, when you do it somewhere else, it's not easier. And that seems to be the same story now.
No, because so now we have this Ford platform, which has a unified reference model. So it's a common model. Every country, every operating business can have its own data warehouse or big data platform, but the semantics of it is common. Yeah, which means that if you have a device recommender or an Aura in one country, the connection with the back office, yeah, with the data, etc., is the same in every country. You can just plug and play it. Yeah? So definitely, in the past we suffered a lot. We didn't have that, and then we decided, okay, if we want to scale, we need this common infrastructure of data, such that interoperability, such that we can actually scale much quicker.
Okay, we've got one last question. Somebody asked, what was more important, ethical or social challenges? Which is
what were the most important ethical and social challenges?
Well, what was the most important ethical and social challenges?
The most important, I think, given that we are a telco, I think it's the data privacy and how you are using data in a transparent and responsible way for your business, but also to help other businesses.
Richard, thank you very much. That was great. Much appreciated.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.